Welcome back to the Home Depot's Indoor Houseplant series. Today's a great day because today we're going to learn how to propagate succulents. Succulents are drought-resistant plants that store water in their roots, stems, or leaves. Storing water gives them a swollen or fleshy appearance known as succulents. The group of succulents includes nearly 60 different plant families, including aloes, jades, euphorbias, sedums, sempervivums, calinclos, and even cactus. Oh, and let me tell you about the most popular one, the echeveria. They come in various varieties, various sizes, various colors, styles, and they're very easy to propagate. Sometimes plants get leggy, grow in unusual directions, become lopsided, they may overgrow their space, or you may just want to create more plants. Propagating succulents is a simple and fun project that can yield many new plants. The types of propagation techniques discussed today will include separating offshoot plants, as well as plant cutting and propagating leaves in both wet and dry methods. So let's get started. Depending upon the succulent, there may be offshoots from the mother plant, either as small side plants or plant upward growth. So let's take a look at this plant. You'll see there's a mother plant and a number of babies around the side. So we can actually take those off. I like to actually remove the babies when they're about a third the size of the mother. So what I'm going to do is remove the plant carefully. Now, this plant was recently watered, so it is coming apart very easily. And you want to basically just tease the baby plants away from the mother. And you'll see they come off very easily. We'll go ahead and repot Mama. And now it's time to pot the babies. You want to make sure you use a potting mix that's great for succulents and has the word cactus or succulent or both on it. This potting mix does have a lot of sand content, which means it'll be better to drain. And by the way, make sure your pot has a hole at the bottom. Nothing will kill a succulent faster than root rot from overwatering and not having proper drainage. So, get some soil. Get a good little bit. And I'm going to start with this plant. Make a little hole, make sure it's in there nice and firm. Now this little plant has some good little roots, so what I'm going to do, put some soil in, put it in there, hold it while I finish putting soil around the plant. You want to make sure the soil is the same level as it was when it was living with its mother. You don't want to put the plant under the soil any further than it currently was. And this one has a lot of roots, so I'm just going to twirl them in there. And again, fill the soil in. So there's a happy plant family. I want to show you something about another type of plant. This is a Haworthia. Now this plant is very commonly purchased, and you'll see it has these little rocks around the side. Oftentimes they're sort of cemented in. I want to show you how to take this plant apart so we can remove the baby. You first of all want to take the plant out carefully. Sometimes the little rocks will come out. If they persist, you want to gently tease them away from the plant. Now, this plant's pretty well root bound. So what I'm going to do is start in the middle and give it a little root massage. And you'll see the roots are gently pulling apart. Now, you'll notice the baby's on the side. So I'm going to gently pry the baby away from the mother. Okay, there we go. So we do have a good amount of roots with the baby, and Mama's looking pretty good too. So we can put Mama back into a pot and put baby into a pot. Put her in there. And again, you want to pot her up to the same level of the pot as she was before. And now for the cute little baby. Twirl the baby in there. And there we go. We've repotted plants, removing them from their mother and starting them off on their own little world. Some plants will give off shoots to start new plants, but you better be careful and make sure that the stem is supporting a small baby plant and not a flower. In this case, the crassula is actually supporting a beautiful flower. In this case, the calancho is supporting a baby plant. So, get this out of the way. We're going to first of all get a pair of pruners, and I like to use a solution of 1 part rubbing alcohol to 3 parts water. This will make sure that I'm not contaminating between plants. Now that I've disinfected my pruners, I'm going to go ahead and cut the baby plant out from the mother. Now this portion, you can see it's fairly long. I'm going to trim it down to about 1/2 inch. This portion I'm going to allow to dry out and harden over the base for about a week, and then I'll plant it in soil. So I'm going to set that aside, and the mother plant will go ahead and make more plants. Another way to propagate your plants is to look at your plant and see if there's any branches or areas that you want to prune up. In this case, on the calancho, there's this branch that just seems to come out of nowhere. It looks like there was a leaf that accidentally popped off. And on the other side, we have something weird going on here. So what to do is have a nice uniform plant in the middle and remove these wayward branches. So again, taking my isopropyl solution here, putting alcohol and water. I want to go ahead and sterilize my blade. What I want to do is go in and trim off the branch. I want to carefully hold the other leaves and the branch away, hold that branch down. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. And as I mentioned, there was one on the other side that was sort of interesting, going off in its own direction. I want to trim close to the stem, but not into the stem. So now the plant is going to be growing uniform. It doesn't have wayward branches. But I'm not going to discard the branches. Now this calancho is called a panda plant, and this is one of my very favorite plants to propagate. And if you gently wiggle the little leaves off, left and right, you'll be rewarded. So we're just going to continue to pull leaves off. On this stem, it's rather long and leggy, not terribly attractive, so I'm just going to wiggle it back and forth, and it gently pulls off of the branch. You want to go in a left and right motion. You don't want to go up and down, and you certainly don't want to go in a circular motion, but you want to be gentle and wiggle that leaf off. There we go. Now you're left with the top, and in this case I'm simply going to trim the top. But again, as you know, we don't want to contaminate anything. So I'm going to go trim about 1/2 inch below the leaf. This stem can be discarded. Another plant that I want to take some leaf cuttings from is this beautiful echeveria. Now, you'll notice the plant, I can sort of push it up. You'll see it's got a bunch of lower leaves, and I can just go ahead and wiggle this off. Now some of these, as I wiggle off, you'll see that they're a different color, they're a little bit lighter, sometimes they're a little bit brown. If they're not in a good condition, just discard them. But some of these are nice and fleshy. And a good tip to remember is, I like to water the plant a few days before I take leaf cuttings. I want to make sure the plant is at optimum health, because the leaf is going to be what's going to supply the new plant. There we go. I can go ahead and put the mama plant back in. She looks fabulous, and I've got a bunch of new little leaves to start. Now remember, after the leaves have been plucked off the plant, you're going to have to wait about 3 days minimum, up to 7 days, for the ends to actually harden off. And once they harden off, then we're going to start propagating. There's actually 2 methods that are going to bring succulent propagation success. The first method is wet propagation. You want to use some moist soil. So again, we're using the succulent cactus potting mix. I'm going to put it in a tray and just a light layer, preferably something that's low, shallow, just enough to cover it, like that, and go ahead and moisten the soil. That's pretty good. And the magic happens when you simply lay the leaf flat on the top of the soil. You do not want to stick the plant in, you just want to lay the leaf on top. You do want to make sure that you spritz the ends every few days, and you want to moisten the soil every week, but at no time should the plants become saturated. In a few weeks, you're going to have some small white and pink roots that will begin to sprout from the ends of the leaves. At that point, you're going to increase the amount of misting or spritzing, and a few weeks later, you're going to have some small plants. And then your succulents are going to grow at their own pace. The second method for handling calloused leaves is with dry propagation, and this is my personal favorite. The leaves are simply placed in a shallow tray in a moderate light area for several weeks until the leaves start sending out roots. The leaf will begin to callus over. In a week or two, you'll start to see some little roots shooting out. At this point, you're going to want to plant your leaf. What I recommend is, again, using the succulent and cactus potting mix. Putting some soil into a container. You can also put this out on a tray as we did before. Moisten the soil. And you're simply going to lay your leaf with your roots and the rosette on top. You do not want to put the leaf into the soil, you just simply want to lay it on top. The roots will know what to do. I especially love propagating the calanchos. You can see here some really fabulous little plants that are started at the end of a mother leaf. On this calancho, you'll see I've got a lot of roots. Some of them are red, some are white. The red ones mean they're not doing so well. This plant should be put into soil that's moistened immediately, which I'm going to do right now. I'm just going to put it on top of the soil. I'm not going to force it in. I'm going to allow it to lay there, and I'm going to gently mist it in, again taking care not to harm the mother leaf, and allow it to grow. You want to keep it moist, but not overly wet. In the next few weeks, the roots will actually incorporate into the soil and the plant will continue to grow. This is always very exciting, but there's a little sadness too. As the new plant begins to grow, the mother leaf will begin to wither and die. That means her job is done and you've got a new plant. The most important thing to remember though is do not overwater. As beautiful as the plants are, whether they're in a mandala or a cute arrangement, wet propagation, or you're just enjoying them while you're dry propagating, you always want to resist the urge to overwater. Be patient, you will see your efforts rewarded. One more special propagation technique that I've learned is actually I've learned it the hard way. This beautiful African red milk plant had a bit of a leaf here. And when we were transporting, it got bumped and it broke off. And I thought, oh, what am I going to do? Well, I happened to have experimented and found that you can take the leaf. I allowed it to dry for about a week. I then put it in soil, and you can see after a few weeks, I've started to develop roots. So the plant is going to generate and continue to grow on its own, so I don't need to feel bad about that poor broken part. So this part will simply be allowed to rest for about a week, harden over, and we'll plant it, and I'll have yet another plant to grow. As with all succulent care, you want to make sure you've got the proper lighting conditions. If your plant has just been cut, trimmed, or otherwise replanted, make sure you put it in bright light, not direct sunlight, and certainly not dark light. Keep an eye on the plant to make sure that it's not getting too much light and encourage it to grow. You'll find out more about propagating succulents in our guide. Be sure to click on the link and learn more. If you'd like to learn more about other indoor houseplants, be sure to put comments down below. We look forward to seeing you there.